Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about Pyroclasm Starter. This video is going to be the part 2 of the weapon guides. We'll cover the mods, calibrations, key armors and everything else about the gun. I hope you enjoy this video. Let's start with the gun itself. The keyword of this gun is going to be burn. Burn is a continuous debuff and a continuous damage on enemies. It will deal 12% of your PSI intensity as a status damage every 0.5 seconds for 6 seconds up to 5 stacks. The damage is going to be blaze elements, cannot crit, cannot hit weak spot, and it will not decay over distance. This gun having a burn keyword, but we are not going to utilize burn that much because of the second passive. The first passive is 27% chance to trigger burn on hit. The second passive is 20% chance to generate a deviated particle which can be picked up and it will put you into charge state. Whenever you have the deviated particles and you're in the charge state, whenever you reload, it will replace your ammos, your magazine bullets, with Dragon's Breath ammunition. It basically makes your gun deal blaze damage. Each of your bullets will deal blaze damage. This blaze damage will not scale with status damage and it will not scale with your PSI intensity. This gun is basically does not scale with the status. The game, this is a lie. It will not be a status. It will deal damage based on your attack, 95% of your attack as blaze damage. The burn bonus damage will apply, the blaze bonus damage will apply, the elemental damage, since it will give you blaze damage elemental, it will apply as well, but the status damage and PSI intensity will not work with this gun. This also means that your Dragon's Breath ammunition that's going to deal blaze damage, it will also hit weak spot, it can also crit, and it will decay with distance. It have another passive as well that increases your blaze damage by 20%, and for every stack that you're having, it will increases your blaze damage by 8%. So the ideal situation is having 4 stack and then you need to reload in order to get all of the blaze bonus damage. To show you how the gun works in action, we are going to use the gun and a glove. This glove will not have any mod for now. And first let's start how the gun actually works. So whenever you shoot in your first bullet, you will not going to deal any damage. You see that's a particle and you need to pick it. And whenever you reload, you will go into the Dragon's Breath ammunition. At the moment I have 1 stack, so if I change a reload, now my bullets will deal blaze elemental damage. It can hit weak spot, it can crit, and it can basically works as a weapon damage. So at the moment we are doing 63 on the body and 73 on the head as a weak spot damage with no mod. If we go and use a weapon damage mod, it will increases our damage to 73 and 84. So it will scale with the weapon damage, with elemental as well. It will scale goes 72, 83. So it's kind of performs similarly with the weapon damage. With a status damage, however, your damage will be the same, 63 on the body and 73 on the head, just like without the mod. And if you add crit, it can crit as well. Let's see if we can crit. Our crit is 80 on the body and it's going to be 90 on the head. So this damage basically scales with your attack, scales with your, if you go with the crit build, it will scales with crit damage as well. It can hit weak spot and the weapon damage. Elemental damage as well. It can be a mix between crit build and elemental build. but it will not scale with a status damage and PSI intensity at all. Next up is going to be the mods for your weapon and for your mask. For your weapon, you have 4 options in game. Between these 4 options, since in this build and in this guide we are going to focus on crit, none of these ones will have that much of an impact on your gameplay. The Burning's Wrath and the Blaze Blessing, they are kind of most like a utility. Flame Resonance is going to be my recommendation for you in this build because it will give you 2 more burn stacks. The Ambers, you can use this mod with the Hardy Gloves. It's like they're going to be connected always together. So you can choose whatever you want. For healing, if you want to go with Blaze Blessing, you can go Flame Resonance as well. The thing that is important is going to be the substats. For the substats, my first recommendation is going to be Burn suffix. Since the Burn bonus damage and Blaze bonus damage will apply to your Dragon's Breath ammunition, they can help you with a great boost of the damage. You don't want the burn trigger chance and the burn trigger time. You want to have a burn suffix with Blaze attributes and the damage against X type of enemies. The second option that is going to be performed similarly is going to be Violent. Crit damage is going to be fixed, and the link attribute you want to look for weapon damage. Magazine capacity can work as well, but you will lose a lot of DPS by not going weapon damage, and damage against X type of enemies depends on your content. These 2 suffixes, they're going to perform similarly. You can also go talent, but unfortunately, since whenever you go for talent, you will have a fixed attribute, and the link attribute is going to be a status damage. We don't scale with the status damage, and there's no way that you can get weapon damage with a talent suffix. They are linked together, so your only option is to go for magazine capacity. That is not very ideal. So your first choice is going to be Violent or Burn, and talent is going to be the worst option. For the mask, however, there are 2 mods that you can go. The first one is going to be Blaze Amplifier. That is increases your PSI intensity for every stack. Since we are not going to scale with PSI intensity on the gun itself, we will not use this one. Instead, we are going to use the Retrusion Explosion. This mod will give you crit rate by 8% and crit damage up to 20% when you're hitting a burning enemy. And the suffix as well is going to be the same, Burn or Violent, depends on your mods and your substats, and talent is going to be the last option. For your secondary gun option, there are few choices. You can go with Wildfire to increases your weapon damage if you can mark only 1 enemy. It is a great bullseye gun for bonus weapon damage, but unfortunately if the boss the boss and maybe some few other mobs, it will spread the mark, so you will not have any bonus weapon damage. It will be only bullseye. So if it's only a single target, go with Wildfire, amazing option. The second option is going to be AWS, Bullseye, or also known as Bingo. Amazing gun for any situation. You just need to hit your enemy 4 times and switch to your main weapon and deal as much damage as you can. It will provide you with 2 stacks of the weak spot damage, 2 stacks that give you 25%, so 50% weak spot bonus damage. It is a very good option if your enemy that you're facing having a very obvious weak spot that you can hit that weak spot at all time. The third option can be Recurve Crossbow. Whenever you hit a weak spot, it will mark the enemy with bullseye and it will give you 15% crit rate on all of your weapons. This is a very good option if you're lacking on the crit rate and you want to have the maximum number of the critical strikes. For the calibration on the gun, I'm going from the best to the worst. The first and the best calibration that you want to go on this gun is going to be the heaviest style with the maximum number of the magazine capacity. You want to shoot as many bullets as you can when you are in the Dragon's Breath ammunition. The substats, I recommend crit rate. You can also go with elemental or Weakspot. I did not try the Weakspot build on this gun, but I don't think it will perform very well. The elemental build, it can be a mix between elemental and the weapon damage. It can perform not very bad, but the best one for the best DPS and best output damage is going to be crit build. So I recommend with double critical rate. The next calibration that you want to go, that you don't want to go actually because it's going to be not very good, is going to be lightweight style. This one is not very good because it will reduces your magazine capacity, and it's the opposite of your plan since you want to shoot as many bullets as possible in order to get the 4 stack as well. So this is not very good option. And the next option is going to be the rapid shot style. It's going to be the same as the lightweight style. This one reduces your attack instead of your magazine capacity. It gives you more fire rate, but the attack is going to hurt your DPS and your output damage, since most of your damage is going to scale with the attack. It can be a good option, but I generally prefer the heaviest style. Moving on to the mods for your armor pieces. I will start with the helmet. For your helmet, you have basically only one option. It's going to be momentum up. It will increases your fire rate for 10% for the first half of your magazine capacity, and for the rest, it will increases the weapon damage by 30%. If you have 30 magazine capacity, 30 bullet in your magazine, from 30 to 50 you will have fire rate, and from 50 to 0 you will have 30% weapon damage. You can also go with elemental havoc, but it only increases your elemental, and 10% additionally for being above 90% HP. You can also go with magazine expansion. Whenever you reload your gun with 0 bullet in the magazine, it will increases your magazine capacity by 30%. Ideally, you will getting around 30 to 31 magazine. So 30% of that is going to increases your magazine capacity from 31 to 38 or 39. So it's not be very ideal, but it can also be a choice. For the suffix, if you have lunar and you want to go a lunar build, you want to focus on the crit damage and your weapon damage and X damage and damage against X type of enemies. And if you want to use violent, you want to go with weapon damage and crit with damage against the content of your enemies. You can also go with talent, but as I said, talent is not going to perform very well. And since we are not going to play Weakspot, we will not cover the Weakspot build. For your body, it depends on your substats mostly. You can also go with the blue mods that give you 2% crit rate and 12% crit damage, but I genuinely think they're not worth it, because the substats are much important than those blue mods. Mostly you want to choose the one with the best substats, and there's just one note that you need to know, is that if you use quick comeback whenever you use an activator, it will not put you into the Dragon's Breath ammunition. You need to manually reload in order to go into that state. So using quick comeback is not going to help you with the passive. For your pants, you want to go with Deadshot for maximum number of the critical damage. You can also go with Bullet Siphon. The Bullet Siphon will give you 5% weapon damage, and for every 5 bullet that you're consuming, it will increases your weapon damage by 4% up to 20%. But this is not very ideal, because in order to get the maximum number of the stacks, you need to spend 25 bullets. So basically it will left you with 5 to 6 bullets in order for having the maximum number of the weapon damage. So this is not very ideal on this gun. You can also go with reload rampage. Whenever you kill a small enemy, you will get 2 bullets in your gun. That helps you shoot more Dragon's Breath ammunition, and it will increases your weapon and status by 10%. But the ideal one is going to be Deadshot mostly. For your shoes, if you're going with Lunar build and Treacherous set, you want to go with Rush Hour for the weapon damage. And if you're a new player or you want to play without Lunar build, you want to be mostly on different builds like Lone Wolf or Shelter, my recommendation for you is going to be Covered Advance. That increases your weapon damage by 20% if you don't take any damage for 4 seconds. Your other option can also be Slow and Steady for 10% weapon damage and another 10% whenever you are above 90% HP. For your gloves, you want to mainly go with Crit Amplifier or Crit Boost. I recommend Crit Amplifier since it will increases your crit rate by 10% and 15% crit damage. The value on the Crit Amplifier is much better than the Crit Boost itself. But if you want to hit the maximum number of the critical strikes, you want to go with the Crit Boost for 5 additional % of the crit rate. The substats are going to be always the same. Violent have the priority, and Precision or Talent are going to be your next option. You can also use the Resonance suffix, but it's very hard to farm, and you need to have 2 type of the Resonance. The one that whenever you hit an elemental give you crit damage, and the reverse of that, whenever you hit elemental it give you crit damage. So this is kind of tricky to farm, and I don't recommend it that much because it's very hard to farm and it's very hard to actually get. The violent one is going to have better value and easier to farm. For the mask, we covered it before. You want to go with Retribution Explosion. That increases your crit rate and crit damage against burning enemies with burn suffix or violent suffix. Moving on to the key armors, we are going to review all the options and go from the worst to the best. The worst option that you can go is going to be the Drifter Gauntlets. This one will not work on any of the burn guns unless for the Duel's Fury. If you don't know which one I'm talking about this shotgun. To show you this, I have both of these shotguns and we have the Drifter's Gauntlet. Basically, whenever you are affected by burn, you will have weapon damage by 15% and crit rate by 15%. In order to get yourself into burn state, this shotgun will do it for you passively. To show you this, basically we are going to use the Duel's Fury. At the moment we have 10% crit rate and 0% weapon damage. And whenever you shooting a burning enemy, you will start burning as well and losing HP. In this form, you will have crit rate and the weapon damage by 15%. But you cannot do this with any other gun. As you can see, we have 8% and 0%. Even if I shoot, nothing will happen. At the moment we have like 4 stacks. And even with 4 stack, if you reload and having Dragon's Breath ammunition, nothing will happen. So the Drifter's Gauntlet are going to be the worst option, since the passive will not work for you at any moment. The next option is going to be the barbecue gloves. Since we are not going to utilize the burning frequency is not going to be that much important for you. It's a good option on paper and it will have a good burning damage, but unfortunately the other options are better than the barbecue gloves. The other option is going to be hardy gloves. This one will, whenever you reach the maximum number of the stack, it will cause an explosion, deals 300 of your PSI intensity, and will remove all the burns stacks. If you use the Ambers mod on your weapon, this one, whenever the explosion happens, you will have 2 stack of burn on the enemy, so you only need 3 more stacks to make the explosion again. So this blueprint with the mods, they are going to have a good synergy, but still I will not prefer it because the other 2 options are going to be better. Next option, they're both going to perform similarly. For killing a boss or a single target enemy as soon as possible, you want to go with Earthly Boots. It basically increases your damage by 30% against bullseye enemies. This is a very good option, and it's basically the king of the DPS on single target enemies. On any build you can use it, you just need a bullseye on the enemy. But the best option that we can go is going to be the Fire Rune Boots. This key armor is basically made for this gun. Whenever you're hitting an enemy or someone hit an enemy that is affected by burn, there's 50% chance to generate a deviated particle that you can pick it up and increases your blaze elemental damage by 30% for 15 seconds. This deviated particle can also help you to go into your charge state faster. Since the gun itself have 20% to give you a particle, with this boot it will allow you to make those particles faster. To compare this, you basically need to use this boot and use the gun with the boot and without the boot. With the boot at the moment, if we shoot, it's 1 stack, 2 stack, and 3 and 4 stacks. So we are 4 stacks at the moment and we want to reload as soon as possible. So let me do this and remove the shoes. And now if we use it, we'll have 1 stack, we'll have 2, 3, and we got 4, but it took longer than usual. So you want to go with Fire Rune Boot in order to get all of the stacks. You don't want to leave. You don't want to use the element of luck in order to get the particles. You want to get the particles as soon as possible, because your first, if we imagine we just reload and imagine you want to start killing an enemy, your first magazine is going to be without the charge state, without Dragon's Breath ammunition, so your DPS are going to be very low unless you get the 4 stack and reload. So you want to reload as soon as possible. Using the Fire Rune Boots will give you a good utility in order to get those deviated particles and a very good damage. By 30% blaze damage is going to be amazing. And Earthly Boots is going to be your option to go for a very fast DPS. Moving on to the armor set. Mainly what I'm using and the videos that I showed you are using 3-piece treacherous and 2-piece lone wolf, or sometimes 4-piece treacherous, 1-piece lone wolf. 4-piece treacherous will give you shield every 8 seconds. That'll help you survive. And the lone wolf will provide you with crit rate and magazine capacity on 2-piece or 1-piece. You can also go with 3-piece lone wolf, 2-piece treacherous as well. It can work as well. It's the DPS are going to be almost the same. They will be performed similarly. The other option is going to be for new players. for players that don't have lunar mods and for players that don't want to be low HP at all time. You want to use Lone Wolf set, 3-piece Lone Wolf, 2-piece Bastille set, or 4-piece Lone Wolf and 1-piece Bastille. The Lone Wolf will give you magazine capacity, crit rate, and crit damage up to 8 stacks. Every stack will provide you 6% crit damage, and it will stack 8 times. And whenever you use the 4-piece, it will go up to 10 stacks. So it will be 10 stack of 6%. And for 2 seconds after reloading, you will have crit rate by 8%. The Bastille set, however, will provide you with weapon damage by 10% if you are above 70% HP, and with 2-piece will give you reload speed by 20% to help you reload faster. These are one of your options. You can also go with Shelter, 3-piece Shelter, 2-piece Lone Wolf, or 3-piece Lone Wolf, 2-piece Shelter for the Elemental. Having a mix between Elemental and crit rate and the weapon damage is going to be good. These are what I'm going to recommend to you. You can also feel free to use other pieces or mixing them however you want. But for the maximum number of the damage, you want to use Treacherous and Lone Wolf, probably if you don't want to be low HP. For the Cradle, you want to use the Anti-Void. The Cradle can be different from each scenario, from PvP to PvE and different servers. In the server that I'm in is going to be Endless Stream, so I will cover this one. Feel free to use the similar ones if your Cradle is different in your server. So Anti-Void will increases your shotgun damage. If you're using a shotgun, it will increases your damage by 15%. It will also covers rifles and heavy weapons. And in addition of that, you will deal 100% more damage against Super Anomaly of Void. This is very good for the Anomaly of Void. Next up, you want to use Rapid Aid for faster uses of the activators and healing options, and it will heal you more if you are low HP. You want to use Tactical Combo for the weapon damage. You want to use the Deviant Energy Defense for the shield. Whenever you're using your Deviant, it will give you a shield up to 30%. If you're in a Starfall Visional Wheel, you want to use Tactical Leap. It will increase your damage against Deviant up to 10%. You just need to be floating for 1 second and it will give you a stack. I will demonstrate this after we finish the Cradle. In the next option, you want to use the Elemental Sense. Whenever you deal elemental damage, that elemental damage will increases by 20%. So when you're dealing Blaze Elemental, it will increases your Blaze Elemental by 20%. Next up is going to be Marked Strike. It will give you more weak spot damage against targets with Bullseye. And you can also you need to use the Blazing Detonation. It will increases your burn damage. This is going to be the options. You can feel free to change between some of them. For example, if you don't want to use Rapid Aid, you can go with Energy Surge or any other one that you want. You can also go with Anti-Phase or Anti-Coherence if you're facing with different anomalies. For the Cradle of Tactical Leap, it's a little bit confusing, but it's very easy even if you're not in a Starfall scenario. Whenever you're using this Cradle, it basically increases your damage against Deviants and other enemies. My server doesn't have any visual wheel. All you have to do is to use an energy drink or using the spring leg that you can get from Deviant. I recommend the Stardust energy drink. So at the moment, whenever we hold our gun, we will have no damage against enemies whatsoever. You just need to jump, and if you look at the buff, if you're floating for more than 1 second, you will getting the tactical leap buff for 3 seconds. So every time that you are in the air for more than 1 second, you will get 3 seconds of this buff. So now 3 second, 6 second, 9 second, and 12 second. And whenever we check our stat, we'll have 20% against Deviant, 20% against Rosetta enemies, and 20% against vultures. So this is how it works. The similar cradles will work in the same way. This one give you damage reduction when you're in the air. This one will recover your deviant energy by 6 whenever you're airborne. So this is basically it. Very easy. You just need to use an energy drink or any other form, and whenever you just need to jumping out at all time to get the maximum number of the stack. The maximum number is going to be 1 minute 60 seconds, and you cannot go more than that. And for every 1 second that you're on the ground, you will lose one of the stacks. Basically duration of the stack. So if you even jump, it will not reduces, but as soon as you start moving on the ground, it will decay. So try to jump at all time to have a decent amount of the stack, so you can deal the maximum number of the damage to the enemies. Moving on to the deviant. For this gun, you have multiple options. You can go with the invincible sun. It will perform. I never used it, to be honest, and I don't like it. It's very clunky to use, in my opinion. You can also use the zap cam for the weapon damage, up to 43.2%, but it's not going to work. It mostly works with rifles and LMGs and those kind of weapons. You can use the butterfly's emissary for the weak spot bonus. I don't recommend it, but still it's a very nice boost for hitting the weak spot. The best two options are going to be the lone wolf for the weapon damage and the aggro on the enemies, and Pyrodino for making the enemies taking more blaze damage, so it will increases your dragon's breath ammunition, and it will also boost your damage with the explosion that it will causes whenever you're hitting and burn enemy. To basically showcase this on the Pyrodino, we need to get one stack here. So I'm going to reload here. So I'm in the dragon's breath ammunition. On this deviant, we are going to do 88 on the body and 101 on the head. But in this dummy, it's going to 63 and 73. So it will increase your damage by actually quite a bit. And with the lone wolf, it will increase your damage to 91 and 104 on the body. So it depends mostly on the situation. Sometimes the lone wolf will come in clutch for taking the aggro of the enemy, so you can deal DPS very much easily without any distractions. But I think Pyrodino will perform better in the terms of the damage and DPS in general, since it will cause an explosion as well that deals a very decent amount. In this part of the video, I'm going to using the same mods and the same cradle and the same gun with the Pyrodino first, but with different armor pieces. 3-piece treacherous first, 2-piece lone wolf, and then 3-piece lone wolf, 2-piece treacherous, and we will repeat the same thing with the wolf. I will cover the shelter piece as well for you to see how much the damage is difference between the crit build, the lunar build, and the shelter build. But take note that This comparison is not 100% right, since we are depends on the crit rates, and our crit rate will never be at 100%, so there are chances for us to not crit sometimes. So maybe I use 4-piece lone wolf, 3-piece lone wolf, 2-piece treacherous, and I'm not critting that much, so that overall damage is going to be lower than other ones. That doesn't mean that that armor piece is not performing well. It's kind of depends on luck mostly. For anyone wondering, in this showcase we will only have 14% damage against common enemies, so we are not using any normal enemy bonus damage against normal enemies, only 14%. We will not go any higher than this. The build is mostly focused on the bosses, so this comparison is kind of going to be fair in most cases. And that's all for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know which gun do you want me to cover next, and see you all in next video.